Hi, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and today I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of the Wild Wisdom of the Fairy Oracle by Lucy Cavendish with artwork by Selena Fenech. Now, I have another deck of these two, Lucy Cavendish and Selena Fenech did the Oracle of the Mermaids. I actually have filmed a walkthrough of this. I simply need to edit it. Things just jump ahead. I'm really bad. But I really actually enjoy this. I have used this in many readings when I really want watery energy. In some of my year ahead video or readings that I've been doing for clients, this has shown up in sort of that spring watery energy, and I've had really good experience with this deck. And so when Miss Maha asked if I was interested in this deck that she was purging, I said, yes. And I know many people probably wonder how I choose. I do have quite a backup of deck walkthroughs to do, and people probably wonder, how do I choose which? Sometimes it's completely capricious. I just am in the mood to walk through a particular deck, and I do it. Sometimes it's because, as with this one, I know that I'm going to ink it. So this is my Vintage Wisdom Oracle, and this has been edged with distressed ink, Jim Holtz distressed ink in Vintage Photo. I'm going to be, because look, when I take one of these cards, look, I mean, obviously you can still see the white because that's there, but that's going to be perfect, or as close to perfect as I'm happy with. So I'm going to be inking the edges. When I'm going to do the edges like that, then I usually want to go ahead and get the walkthrough so that at the end of it, people can see how it turned out when I've done the edges. Excuse me, I'm a little crackly in my voice today. So a lot of times that is why I may push one ahead of another, even though I have so many. It just, as of right now, I'm backed up, and it actually somewhat agitates me. But I can't just put them all up in one day. I have to space them out. So, yes. Anyways, that's why I'm doing this particular deck today, is because I do want to sit down and edge this deck because it's screaming to me to be edged. And look at this background. One thing I am absolutely thrilled at is that there was a second edition of this that I think comes in more of the regular Blue Angel box. This was, I think, published in 2009. This has been on my wish list for a while, so I've watched a lot of videos on it. Yes, 2009. I believe this was before Blue Angel was had reduced their guidebooks down and put them in the beautiful boxes that we think of with Blue Angel decks now. So this does not have a box with it. I know that the original box for this is more like a typical Llewellyn's, a little bit of that flimsier box that you wouldn't keep around. But on the other hand, what it does have is a very meaty book, guidebook that goes with it that you kind of lose, I think, when you go down into the smaller format. That's not a huge deal breaker for me with Oracle decks, because I tend to read these, unless it's a very specific system, I tend to read them Oracle decks very intuitively, and I do read the guidebooks, but I don't often refer back to them anywhere near what I might do with a tarot deck. That, again, only if it's a different, I guess guidebooks in general, it just depends on if the format has really deviated from what it was before. But anyways, I diverse. So this did come out in a second edition, and the backings were changed. This backing, I think, is absolutely gorgeous. So this is a 7-pointed star 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, with an aged leather look to the back of it that is gorgeous. Now, the other backing I want to say is purple. I think it still has the heart on it, or the heart. I think it still has the star on it, but it's like on a purple backing. This to me blows that backing out of the water. And so I'm so thrilled when I pulled this out of the box. I was so thrilled to see that it was this version of the backing. So yes, so I have been, I said, this has been on my wish list for a while. People have said that it reads really beautifully with Tarot of the Hidden Realms, which is, one of my top 4 decks. Like I said, I actually really enjoyed the Oracle of the Mermaids. Now, from what I understand, the Oracle of the Mermaids has a couple problems just in terms of differing art styles that are trying to be put together. From what I understand, this is a little bit more cohesive, but we'll see, I guess, as we go through them. This isn't my, as I said in the mail unboxing, my idea of Fae is Brian Froud's artwork, Charles DeLint's writing, and Tarot of the Hidden Realms. Like those are really, to the most part, encapsulates my understanding and my relationship with Fae energy. This pushes a little bit more towards, say, the Victorian flower fairy and those kinds of things, where it's a little bit all is a beautiful reflection of just pure human ideals of beauty with wings on them. Not entirely. There's some really interesting ones in here, but it has more of that feel. So I wouldn't say that this completely encapsulates my understanding or relationship with Fae energy, but I still really love it because it does have that inherent love of all things fairy that I've had since I was a child, for fairy storybooks, for fairy tales. All of that, kind of energy is here, and so it's a no-brainer for me to get this kind of deck eventually, and now here it has come to me from the lovely Maha. So let me move this out of the way for a minute and take a look, because this actually is quite, I want to say this is probably the biggest guidebook that I have for an oracle deck. This is a 47 card oracle deck. I'm kind of skimming over my guidebooks, but yeah, I think this is the biggest guidebook I have for an oracle deck. And it's not, well, other than Brian Froud's artwork, or books, I will say that. It's not like it's full of white space. I mean, it does have a lot of gorgeous artwork in it, that has been put, that's one of the cards, I love it. She has a beautiful thing going into who are the fairies, how to communicate and work with the fairy realm, why, who can do it, why do it, kind of a synopsis of fairy beliefs, and then again, how to work with the fae. Now, I will say, just my own personal heads up with this kind of thing is to always, I believe one should always be carefully, tread lightly, tread respectfully when dealing with Fae energy, because it is not, in my opinion, little beautiful Fae flying out of the books of Victorian story pages. The Victorian era is where that idea of the Fae is these kind of sort of beautiful kind of representation of our lives, but with wings, kind of recreation of our own ideas, or our own ideals kind of represented just with little teeny figures with wings. That is a fairly, and just in terms of history, that is a very small, or a very relatively short, new perspective on Fae or nature spirit type energy. Most of, when you get back into the old tales, there is very much that understanding of capriciousness, of trickster qualities, of not being human. This is not a human energy, and so I think that you have to be very careful with that. That in some ways, decks like the Victorian Flower Fairies or Victorian, yeah, flower fairies, and even this kind of deck. I think that in some ways that is a little bit deceiving in terms of if somebody really is wanting to work with Fae energy. I think that, like right here, it talks about kind of do things, and it says, if in fairy realms, do eat their food and drink their wine. It is healing and can amplify. I disagree with that. I 100% disagree with that. Again, not that many of you are probably going to end up in the fairy realm, which this is an issue, but we have, centuries of folk tales and fairy lore that says otherwise. And so I think that we need to be very careful about bringing our sort of, oh, everything is wonderful and we're all equal and everything is love and light ideology into very, very ancient energies. And I think that that is very problematic, and I think that that is misleading. And so I know you're all thinking, okay, we're talking about fairies, Kelly. Why are you giving us warnings? I'm just telling you that I believe that the world is full of energy, and that there is not all love and light energy. There is light, there is shadow, there is very old, very deep, very ancient energy that isn't something to be trifled with. And when you have folklore and folk tales for eons, that's exaggeratory, but for a very long time, that has this very specific understandings of that energy. I think that respect and carefulness and not glossing that over is very important. And so when we have just multitudes of fairy type stories that really say don't eat the food, my saying is you probably shouldn't eat the food. Watch the Doctor Who's Come Away, Oh Human Child video. Read some of Charles DeLint's books, which has both light and dark fae. There are light courts and dark courts. There are, even within the light courts, there are traditional tricksters and things of that nature. You have enough tales of something that says be careful, then in my opinion you should be careful. And I know you're all saying you're spending way too much time on this. These are fairies, but just bear with me because I take it quite seriously. I love me some fae. I do really like this Wen that talks about the summer solstice, talks about all the equinox and solstices and how you might incorporate Fae energy into those dates. I think that's pretty neat. Different symbols that you might show in terms of in relation with Fairy. The different realms, talking about the Irish Fae and the Tuatha Dé Danann. You have Avalon, the Blessed Isles, Fairyland, the Manitou, kind of the Unseelie and the Seelie Court. And so forth. It does talk about dark fae. See, I do have a kind of issue, again, with this, and I know you're saying, okay, this is just fairy tales. I get this, but just bear with me. Humor me. Dark fairy are oft thought to be wicked and tricksy. Indeed, they are tricksters, but mainly because of their disguise. You see, they wear the glamour of the dangerous ones as a protection. They are truly very soft and fragile souls. See, that to me is very problematic, because that is going this kind of light and fluffy route that says everything in the world is really wonderful. Everything is, it's a problem I have with some affirmation decks, that everything in the world is light and fluffy and, everything's okay. We're all okay. Let's all just get along. That's well and good, but that I think is quite dangerous to say, okay, we have Unseelie, the Unseelie court, who are not so fond of humans, and definitely have many, many stories about the Unseelie court and darker energy. And then to just say, oh, but they're not really bad. They're just misunderstood. I I think that that's quite dangerous because everything in the world is not love and light. There is a balance in all things. There's a balance in light and shadow. And that doesn't mean that it's evil, but it does mean that it can be dangerous. And I think that you have to be wary of painting everything with fairy dust in the form of glitter. So that's just me. Take it for what you will. And then it goes into a 7-card reading, a cross reading, and a Trinity spread, and then some closing thoughts. And then we get into the card interpretations. We have a black and white image of the card, the number and title, and the keywords, which are, whoops, let me flip these over, which are on the card itself. It's a very standard, Oracle card setup. And then it goes into quite a lot of information. We have a description of the card, and then we have the divinatory meaning and the reversed meaning. And so that is for each of the cards. So you really do get quite a lot of information about each of the cards. Beautiful, graphics put in. The book is very well done. And so it's beautiful. It gives you a ton of information. Again, I don't tend to, I tend to read Oracle cards quite intuitively, but sometimes you want to go back to it. But just as a beautiful, it's a gorgeous book. Oracle of the Dragonfey is another one that is on my wish list also. But anyways, so there we have it, a very meaty guide with, I think, quite a lot of information, but I will just say take some of it with a grain of salt, and or maybe salt your windows and doorways, and just be, when working with any kind of energy, that if you really don't consider it to be human energy and you consider it to be true energy, I think that we always have to be careful and respectful and smart. So there we have it. Kelly's warnings on dealing with the Fae. Okay, so here we have the beautiful cards. And again, as I said, this is quite a different style of art than what I consider representative, really representative of Fae energy. And I will be doing walkthroughs of Brian Froud's deck now that I have both of them, because I'm going to be inking the sides of that. So that one will be coming up too. Actually, I'll probably do that one next, because then, you can kind of see what I'm talking about in terms of energy. I think that would be a great idea. So I look for that one to be put up as well. I will actually try to do that today, so that you can see what I mean about the difference. And it doesn't make this a bad deck. Again, this is a deck that I've wanted, but we have to understand the perspective that it's coming from, and enjoy that for what it is, but not to confuse, I think, the two. So here we have the 3 graces, which is cooperation with friends. You have a very much of a 3 of Cups feel here, which I think is lovely. Here we have a return to nature, solace. I love this idea. I often had dreams growing up of sleeping in trees. I grew up with a lot of fear, a lot of nightmares, and a lot of seeing things and that were frightening. And so I often had dreams of sleeping inside of a tree that closed up around me. And I think kind of used that as a... there's a name for that, a visualization, kind of creating a protective zone around myself. And so I think this is beautiful. Here we have the Riddle Fisher, divination, seeking out and finding answers. I love that she's in water, because that to me really speaks to divination. And we have the key that she's kind of holding as a pendulum, again, in that idea of seeking out answers. Here we have the Story Keeper. Of course, I love this. Tell your story, legacy, write your wisdom. It's gorgeous. But you can see this is all the very much everything is light and beautiful, which I don't, I don't have an issue with, because this deck does touch somewhat on some shadow issues, much like the Oracle of the Mermaids. There were a few in that one as well that do touch on it. The Secret Doorway, love this. Working with intuition, second sight opening, and dimensional doorways. I quite like this card. I think there's a lot that you could do with this, just in terms of looking at something or entering into another perspective that's like really physically moving into your second sight. That I think is gorgeous. I love the inclusion of some black and white images. Here we have the dark moon, maturation, growing up, introspection, and that kind of call to know thyself. I think it's very stunning. Has a very much a moon energy with the crescent moon and all. Tarot moon energy, I mean. Here we have the Faery Wishing Well, manifestation, expectations, and offerings. We kind of see her placing offerings at a wishing well, leaving offerings for Fae has been, it has a long tradition, leaving food and water and food and milk, more specifically, out for Fae is always a wise thing to do if you feel like that is warranted. Again, love the black and white kind of sketches that are pulled in. I don't find it disjarring at all. Jarring. It's Cry for Nature, mourning for something sacred which seems lost. So this is a cut down tree, and she's kind of mourning that. But that is, you can use that with, I think, there's so much that you can do with that that I think is just gorgeous. Here we have the Silver Sisters, time to take protection from toxic thoughts and energies. Now this is interesting, and this is something that also came up in Oracle of the Mermaids. I like this card, the taking protections from toxic thoughts. I just don't see what this image has to do with that. And so there were a couple like that in the Oracle of the Mermaids where I really liked, I think there were 3 of them in Oracle of Mermaids, where I liked the ideology, I liked the message behind the card, but I didn't feel that the image had anything to do with it. And this definitely is the case with that card. Not that I can't use it, it's just, pointing that out. Here we have the Unicorn and the Maiden, communication with Unicorn, purification and undercover action. The undercover action I thought was quite interesting. Let's just take a quick peek here. So communications and bringing peace, I get that. I guess the undercover action, I guess, is to me what kind of stands out is what does this have to do with undercover actions. But I mean, that might pop up in a reading as even reading it, I'm not entirely sure about that. But it is a gorgeous card. I, of course, adore her red hair. She makes me think of my daughter. I love this Barnabas and the Prince, because if this is the prince, that means the frog or the toad is Barnabas. I love this because it makes me think of Thumbelina, and I was obsessed with the story of Thumbelina when I was younger, just obsessed with it. I wanted to either be Thumbelina, have a flower that would grow a Thumbelina for me so that I could take care of Thumbelina, and any other number of scenarios there. I was obsessed. And so I love this, and I love the toad named Barnabas. Makes me smile. Oh, this is about adventures, discovery, travel. But you can see here, this is much more of the lighter forms of Fae, beautiful and sweet and cute kind of, which I love. I have nothing against this. I grew up with these kinds of things as well, and I adore it. It's just different. So here we have the Gossamer Princess, communication, relationship work to be done. So communication in terms of a relationship. I love this card. Catch Me. This is trust, surrender, and a leap of faith. I love her black dress and the black, like, birds or I don't know that they're crows. They don't really look like crows, but they have these black birds behind her. I just think it's gorgeous. They're beautiful clouds. Yeah, I love that. I love this one too. This is a little more Brian Froud because he's gorgeously done, very beautifully drawn. And then this cute little fae on top of his head. I really do love this. The light and the darkness, ancestors, ancestral line, generational shifts. But just the image itself, I just think he is, look at that face. I mean, that is beautifully drawn. Gorgeous. Love this. Stolen in her sleep, unaware, unconscious, unawakened. And she's laying there sleeping and she's on a bed of goblin-y things. Again, this is a little more Brian Froud, so I do like to see that. You have to be careful. And so that's another thing. Look at the hands on her. I mean, that's creepy. So then don't say that all creepy fays, they're just love and light that have been misunderstood. You know what I'm saying? Be careful of that, because this is very powerful and I love it. I do think this happened in a little bit in Oracle of Mermaids as well. There was like this kind of different art style that almost has an unfinished look or just is very different. You take something like this style of just gorgeously drawn, and then this is also gorgeous, but it's very different. It's more like a greeting card art, so to speak. It's just very different. I don't find the black and white imagery to be jarring. I keep saying disjarring. I don't even think that's a word. I don't find that to be jarring, but this style art kind of thrown in with what most of the rest of the artwork is a little bit jarring for me. It's not like I can't get around it. I'm just kind of pointing those things out. Her special place, find your own safe place inside and out. So I like the message there. Here we have the acorn's invitation, touch, exchange, and connection. It's a sweet. It's a little sugar sweet, but it's gorgeous. I do love this deck. So, when I'm saying these things, it's, I'm really not negative to the artist. I think she's phenomenal. This is just, my opinion about particular artwork. This is beautiful. There's another artist that I used to follow a lot. I can't remember her name. This artwork reminds me of that I used to just love. Scared to Fly, the right moment, sensing out the right timing. I love this. She's got wings, right? But she's scared. She's not confident. And so I love that card. I love this one as well because, again, we have a little bit of that shadow side, letting go, detachment, moving on. Like, what is she letting go of? He's sinking in the water. Is he dead? And that's his kind of ghost spirit that is and she needs to let go of. There's just so much. She's kind of looks like she's walking on the water and he's sinking or pulling her down. There's a lot to be done with that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful artwork. The Littlest Fairy, appreciate the beauty and value of the exquisite and the small. So I do love this. I think it's a little bit cutesy. There's one card in here I know pushes my cutesy factor over the top. And this is close, but it's not, it's still gorgeous. Because we actually have cutesy on top of him too, but I love the juxtaposition of those two things. And he is definitely a little cutesy, but I love him because he, it inspires nostalgia. So, but I like the message of, appreciating the small. Here we have Crystal Magic, Creation, Dawn, and the Beginning. It's quite beautiful. Snail's Pace. This is a little cutesy again, but it's beautiful. Slow down, grounding, listen for the heartbeat of the earth. I really like that. There's a similar kind of card in Tarot of the Hidden Realms. I guess for me, the Tarot of the Hidden Realms is so on point that it makes it hard for me to appreciate other things sometimes, but this is adorable. It is very sweet. This would be on the cover of the book in the box, I'm assuming. Follow me, come. This is your invitation to enter the realm of Faery. you know, this isn't my favorite image. It's beautiful, but it just has that idea of what everything in Fae is: seductive, beautiful young women. And it's much more than that. This is gorgeous. Golden gift, magical help is on its way. That's beautiful. I love her horns. I love this in the background on the stone. It's gorgeous. Same thing with this. Look at this. The Grail Fairy. Fertility, the return of life, health, life cycles. This is just gorgeous. Very moon energy. This one is the one that, yeah, it's too cute for me. But what are you going to do? Little boy blue, come blow your horn. The cows in the meadow, the sheep's in the meadow, the cows in the corn. Dreams come true and return of the soul. So I do like it. There's a Chrysalis card, Chrysalis tarot card like this that also pushes my cute factor too far. But I do like the idea of it. It's the new beginnings. It's something new. It's a new birth. It's somebody starting his journey in this little body fresh and new. So I like the message. It just pushes my cute factor. Carry me home, support, time to be carried, allow others to help. This is a beautiful card. It's Katie was over and looking at these cards, and she said, yeah, this is, you know, again, it's got a little bit of the cheese factor, but it's a beautiful cheese factor because it reminds me of like So You Think You Can Dance, and with some of the beautiful interpretive dancing that I absolutely adore, and very musical quality to it that I love. And I like the meaning that sometimes we need to allow other people to help. This is a message that I need to hear currently. Once was innocent. Knowledge means change. I like the meaning of this card. There is that idea that, you know, we will change with knowledge, that we cannot always keep innocence, complete innocence. Isn't necessarily to be desired, to be honest, because you can't have complete innocence with knowledge and growth. There is a loss of innocence, and I think that that is a natural progression that probably should do. It does kind of tie it up with kind of seductive idea of, you know, with the thigh high things and the kind of corset thing, and so it's kind of connecting it a little bit more to sexual innocence. But I like the meaning of this, that knowledge is change. I think this is beautiful. Into the Woods. I won't start singing from the musical, but stranger in a strange land, new experiences, feeling uncertain. There's a transition. This is a person in transition because she's at the border of the meadow and the forest. That plays very heavily in fairy tales, that border of meadow and forest. Here we have Far, Far Away, creative daydreaming. So I think that's sweet. Beauty and the Beast. This was another one that I feel is disjointed, like the sisters one. Beauty and the Beast, unconditional love. I love Beauty and the Beast. I love the story of Beauty and the Beast. I don't know. Oh, there they are. I really like this one because she's sweet and beautiful and gorgeous, and then we have these little gnomey guys here and they love her. These are like sort of a little bit of a Sleeping Beauty feel with the dwarfs, although these are little gnomes, but you get that sense that caring about her despite their very disparate looks. So it's a very sweet card. Beauty's truth. Beauty, physical pleasure, and sensuality. Obviously, this is a much more of a sensual feeling, although I don't get a strong sense of sensuality. She's a little too cute and sweet. The coloration is a little cute and sweet for me to be about sensuality. But, you know, I get it. I would have liked to see it if you're going to go with a sensual card, like just, you know, go get sexy, get real sexy, not like mushrooms and butterflies, and it's just a little cute to be sexy for me. But that could just be me. Here we have the Merlin. Again, slight cheese factor, but I love Merlin, and I love his staff, guidance, mentorship, teacher of the old ways. So I do like the name of the card. You know, I like the concept of the card. Glimpse, indigo. I know there are ideas of indigo children, crystal children, and such like that. I guess I don't see that to have to do with fae, with fairies. I'm going to look it up here because from what I understand, indigo children have to do with angels and star people, like that kind of the star seed idea. This is a scout. He's on the borderlands, which I do, I get that energy. I do like the tree. I even like, the fae kind of peeking out behind it. There are also children and young adults around today who are more open and ready than the generations preceding them. The fairies seek these beings so they can establish connections with them. So they're kind of looking for people that can see them, which I get. Like I don't get sometimes the guidebook, I'll be honest. Like, so we have this talking about, seeking out, this is basically seeking out people who are open to seeing the fae. Both about children who are more receptive as well as adults who were receptive but have been scarred and kind of shut down because they've been told there is no such thing as fairies. That idea of kind of shutting down your ability to see magic and to see things outside of what people have said is normal. I really like that. But when you get to the divinatory meanings, it says it's time to cease eating fast food and accepting authorities' messages simply because they are in charge. I just don't see what the eating fast foods has to do with anything. It's just sometimes the way it's written is a little bit disjarring. I love Lucy Cavendish, but I do often, I will say, have problems with Oracle card guidebooks because just sometimes they get a little cheesy. But I like the card. Again, Indigo Children, and for me it has something to do with, I guess because I've seen them Enduring Virtue decks. There's an Indigo Angel. I guess I'll have to look up more on Indigo Children. If you know more about Indigo Children, please put that in the comment box below. But I do like the card. Stardust. This is one of those I feel like the artwork is a little bit different, like less finished. I don't know if that makes sense. A little bit more line work, I guess, than, say something even like this where you have that very painted feel. But it's gorgeous. I like the purple tones. So this is Premonitions, Galactic Communication. So you do get, again, that idea, a little bit of that starseed idea, and beginnings and endings. Child of the Moon, I like this. Forgiveness and transcending ego. Kind of getting up and beyond this sort of the earth and the ego idea. I do think that is beautiful, a card. And a card about forgiveness, again, does touch on shadow. Keeper of secrets, to using your discernment, confide in a trusted friend, keep silent about knowledge. That sometimes there is a time to communicate and sometimes there is, there's a time to be quiet and to keep the things that we shouldn't be telling. So I think that that's interesting. The Green Man's Bride, sacred union, commitment ceremony, maturing into a deep relationship. I don't particularly like this image of the Green Man, to be honest. I find green men to be very powerful images. And this kind of the nose, and I don't know, he looks a little bit gnomish-y Green Man versus like a Green Man, powerful Green Man image. But that's just preference. Here we have Shimmer, glamour, confidence, allure, and charisma. This is to me a little bit of a sugary card, but it's okay. See, like even this Green Man for me is better than this one. I take that one a little more seriously. The Green Man's Door, portals to Faery, the Wheel of the Year, galactic, and Gaian entry point. So we definitely have several cards with that idea of galactic or starseed kind of idea. But what's interesting is that it doesn't really talk, it talks in the guidebook, it talks about the Wheel of the Year and the 8 special times, that you can. There are 8 great doors to Faery every 13 moons, and they're old as Mother Earth herself, which talks about the Wheel of the Year. They run from sundown to sundown of the following day. And so it does talk a lot about that, which I love. But it says on here galactic and Gaian entry points, but that doesn't really talk about anything to do with galactic. So I'm not sure about that. Here we have mother and daughter, which is very sweet. Mothering, teaching, sharing knowledge, nurturing self-worth. It's a beautiful, sweet card. Here we have dragon's pet. Communication between species, animals, pets, magical companions, and guardianship. It's just the idea of being a guardian. The Midnight Prince, ask for what you want. Be honest. It's like you're approaching the prince. Just be honest about what it is. Don't try to be trickery or anything like that. It's not going to get you anywhere in Fae other than probably in trouble. The Secret Path, I mean, that's very sweet. An irresistible pull down a distinct path. Ley lines, mystical traditions. The whole idea of ley lines fascinates me and always has. This is a beautiful card. I love this. She's very powerful looking Fae with her sword, and she is the gatekeeper. Fairy time shifts, and dimensional shifts. To me, again, there's a little bit of disjointedness because you think of a gatekeeper as kind of a guard, somebody that's guarding. I guess they have a door here, so the idea of guarding an entryway, but then it's really more to do about time. So I just think you'd probably have an image that was more to do with time, I guess, than that. But fairy lovers, new love, courtship, romance, falling in love, those lovely things. There's a falling in love one in the Oracle of the Mermaids that I think is quite cheesy, but I love it, and it's actually come up a few times quite well. And again, this is so sweet, but the artwork is very different and very, sweet, very cute little, you almost feel like this is Sleeping Beauty, or not Sleeping Beauty, Snow White, but with fairy wings with one of her little dwarf companions. A present and offer nurturance, growth, and potential. He's offering her a flower. So there we have all of the cards. I do think it's quite a lovely deck. I think there is a little bit of disparity in images of image types, where you have these just stunning artwork, and they're all lovely, but they're just can then be very different. It's almost like you could have a couple different decks here, and that don't just always go together artistically. So there's a little bit of that feel that this was existing artwork that was pulled in, which I think happens with Oracle more so, and happens more successfully with Oracle than with Tarot for sure. We do have a nice amount of cards that, at least in some way or form or another, I think touch on shadow aspects, and I'm not saying evil aspect, but if you have to forgive, if you're being messaged as forgiveness, that means there's an issue that needs to be forgive. Solace has that word, the ideology or the idea behind the word of needing solace because of some situation. Knowing when to keep secrets, there's a reason for that. This isn't because everything is happy and light. So I do think that there are some cards, and I didn't go through, systematically to pull them all out, but I do think that there are cards that are reflected here that do touch on those issues, which I appreciate. So, and all in all, I'm really happy with this. This is a deck I can definitely see myself pulling for readings. Again, look for the next walkthrough I do to be about, or from Brian Froud's artwork, and you'll see what I mean about the difference. Even if you have Tarot of the Hidden Realm, which has very sweet and beautiful images, but it also, I think, shows the power of the Fae in a way that resonates with me very much. But I quite love this, and it's one I will certainly be keeping, and it was one that I will definitely be using more along the lines of an oracle deck to pull for last messages and things such as that. I don't think there's enough of a balance between light and shadow to use this to get those types of messages where I want to make sure that possible messages of light and shadow come through. So I wouldn't use this probably as a primary reading tool, but I definitely would use it in my 3 voices type things, and or at the end of reading just for a final message. And I'm excited to work with it. So I think my bar is just high. That's all. So let's just take a look at, of course, what comes up. So let's just took a look. Let's take a look at 3 cards here. This is just my typical, what I'll do is, you know, it's that idea of something that needs to be let go of, something that needs to be held on to, and some energy moving forward to keep in mind. I do this a lot with full moon readings, but which I like to use oracle cards for full moon readings, so I thought, well, we'll just see what this does. So it's interesting because we have that sense of what to let go of being nurturing and growth, and it's a gift of something, but it's about the potential of something, but we need to let go of that. And so I think that there is that sense of receptive energy. She's receiving a gift. And so because I'm, you know, we're looking at these just in terms of the whole spread, I have that sense of it's time to sort of step away from the receptive energy right now and move towards that. You know, he's going out and looking for people that resonate with him, looking for people that, you know, if you, especially going off of the guidebook, you're looking for even older people who have maybe been scarred and shut down from seeing things as more than they are. So that idea of kind of looking past your scars to be able to really start to see. But I get that, that for me, what's really popping out here is the receptive versus the actively going out to find. And so there is that sense of, okay, the time for waiting for something to come to you is past, and what we need to hold on to is moving forward is that more active searching energy. So I love that. And then what to look for as moving forward into new energies, keeping this in mind, keeping this integrated into our sense of self, is if we're being active, if we're looking for that right moment, we're going to know the moment in which we can let go and fly. Because this is also about right timing, that the timing looks very windy and things, and so she's needing to make sure that she takes off at the right moment, and that is going to happen by being perceptive and by being actively perceptive versus just being passively waiting. So that's, you know, that's just one way that I would use that particular, just so you could see how these might work. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this and color these edges, and then I will come back and show it to you edged, so people like to see when I do that. So there we have a look at the cards anyways. Okay, I wanted to go ahead and show you, this is still a little wet, obviously it needs to dry, and there are a couple stacks in here, so it's a different kind of color because as they dry they do, but look at how gorgeous that is. And I saved a few because I got one last set to do, just so you could see the difference. You know, look at how white those cards are. In cards that are have a dark inside and a dark outside, and then to have that really white border or outside just doesn't look finished to me. This is just a personal preference. And so I am really, really happy with how that has turned out, and I just wanted to pop on and show you the finish. Now you could have obviously gone darker. Maybe, I know there's like a walnut that's very, very dark, but I had this vintage photo, and so I wanted to kind of use that. You can see these are quite glossy. But what are you going to do? But anyways, I am so thrilled with that. So I just want to pop on so that you could see how those would look finished. So this has been a look at the Wild Wisdom of the Faery Oracle by Lucy Cavendish and Selena Fenech. And I am very happy to be working with these lovely cards. So thank you for watching.